Welcome back to Team Sonic Racing. In this part we're going through Sky Road, Sand Road, Frozen Junkyard and the Lost Palace. So let's go into this, and I've shown off all the different characters of character types available at this point. So I've basically got free reign to be whoever, and I know that this character is incredibly unpopular and I do not like him, but I want to use him just because fuck it, why not? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to play as Zavok. And Zavok is the head of the Deadly Six from Sonic Lost World. Nobody liked him in Lost World, to my knowledge, and I doubt anyone was asking for him here, yet somehow he keeps getting brought back. He's shown up again in Forces, albeit as like a hologram kind of thing. He is showing up here, and he's also showing up again in the Tokyo Olympics game. I don't quite know why, because ultimately, I think even people who like the Deadly Six would pick the other characters over Zavok. To me, if I was going to pick a representation, my favourite of the Deadly Six was Zor. You know, the emo one. And because he's got some legitimately funny moments. He is very much a played up emo stereotype, which is funny, and is actually an entertaining character. Granted, he still doesn't have that much to him because he is just a one-note emo, but I'd rather a funny nothing character over a nothing character, and Zavok is entirely a nothing character. He brings nothing to any of the stories that he's in. He's basically a less cool version of Bowser, except where Bowser's had years and years to develop after a point where he's introduced where there was no real means to give him character really. Zavok just takes the bare bones no character traits other than, I guess, being a little bit angsty, and that is the entirety of him. Lost World has a lot of issues in terms of its writing all over the shop, in terms of character interactions and just the story being a bit on the whole, but just the new characters of the Deadly Six, they really are weak villains. Even Infinite, for all the people who dunk on Infinite for being a bit of a cop-out at the end and whatnot, at least he is somewhat of an entertaining character. This ultimate theme, they've given him one of the Deadly Six boss themes, which a lot of people seem to like. I think it's okay musically. It's not something that I would go back to listen to much, because I don't know, Lost World has some okay music tracks. It's not the most memorable soundtrack ever, but the music's good for what it is. There's some that when I play the game and I hear it kick in, and I will bop my head a little bit, but considering some of the other Sonic soundtracks we've had are absolutely legendary. It's no fucking Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack, it's no 06, it's no Unleashed. It's just sort of background music for a Sonic game, which doesn't quite hold up when you compare them. Although I will say the main theme from Lost World, Wonderworld, I like that song a lot. That's a really... I like it because it's a very upbeat and just generally cool song. And when the credits kick in and you hear that piano come in, I do appreciate that. Get back here, Shadow. I'm serious. Get back here, Shadow. Alright, we're going to get these pop up. Let's dodge them. I'm not as good at dodging them with the power characters because they're just on the whole tend to be more stiff to control, which makes sense given it's a balancing thing, given they can take shortcuts in certain tracks and whatnot. But I'm not as good at controlling these characters as I am with the speed characters and the technique characters. I'll say that this particular track I do actually like quite a fair bit in terms of its design. It is using some themes from the Rooftop Run track, so it's not entirely original. But I like the section where you're outside and you can see the clock tower, which is really cool. It's very much reminiscent of Rooftop Run, like in the night level where you climb around the clock face and that. It looks very much like Big Ben, which I do like. And, you know, it reminds me of a few other times we've seen stuff like that. There's like the iconic scenes from the Knights series where Knights is just on top of the clock tower, it reminds me of as well. And also, like, given I recently played Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, it kind of reminds me of the later portion of the Neverland world, where you can just sort of fly freely around the clock tower on the later half of that world. But here we have Sand Road, which is again in the Sandopolis theme. But this music track I was never expecting to be hearing again. This is a remix of the Sand Hill track from Sonic Adventure. And if you don't remember which particular area that is when you're playing as Tails and you find Froggy in the Mystic Ruins and you realise that he swallowed the Chaos Emerald and you have to chase him on the sandboard down the hill. It's one of the more obscure picks they went for in this, because, like, yeah, it is based on Sandopolis, but they adapted it to use the theme of Sand Hill. And some of these sections here, like, they're not entirely based on Sand Hill, but it's a neat little nod nonetheless. And I will say, in terms of what I was mentioning in the last part, this is the course where the issue I have with the shaders makes itself known the most. Because, like, you can see this lighting is a little bit fucked right now. And I haven't actually watched any videos of this in the console version to know whether it is just a thing that I'm having, or whether it's just a slight issue with these shaders that they're using. But it just does stick out to me. But then I will say this is something that I take notice of in particular when it comes to games, and particularly more recent Sonic games, because it's the look of Sonic games since around Unleashed that's made me really appreciate how much lighting can do for a scene. There's like your main influences for me in terms of what makes me like a game's visuals. There's the lighting and the use of colour, and Sonic games, the ones that look really good, are the ones that make the best use of that. Because I still think to this day nothing's topped Unleashed HD. Because it has the perfect balance of not overly saturated, but not trying to be realistic either. So the colour is on point entirely. And you also have the lighting from the first version of the Hedgehog engine, which, like, it just works so flawlessly. It was one of the early examples that I can think of a game making good use of global illumination effects, so the lighting in the scene would properly represent the look they were going for, and it would reflect off the character models. That's probably the most important part, because it makes the world itself feel a lot more cohesive. Like, you would be running through arid sands and you would see the sort of desert colouring just bouncing off of Sonic's model, and it'd make him fit into the scene perfectly. Which is something that I feel the game before it, 06, struggled with. 06's lighting, it's basically non-existent. There was that teased day-night system in one of the earlier previews that never came to fruition, and the final game seemed to have no real emphasis on being clever with lighting at all. It was just sort of there, which meant that Sonic, Shadow or Silver or whoever you may have been playing with just felt incredibly out of place in the environments. They were just like, it would be the world is around them and they would just be dropped into it. And yeah, you know, like, it was an early 360 game, so I guess I can't really be too harsh on it. But when you consider that games on the generation before that, not necessarily Sonic games, but some games had pulled off much more cohesive looks, it was a little bit disappointing. And I'm a power character, so I can just ram through this, like these icy sections here. And didn't really get much of a benefit from it, but hey. The Fire and Ice set levels in this game are I think off the top of my head, the only original settings I can think of. And so they did get a bit more creative for these. Again, like, I know they wouldn't acknowledge the Boom series, given this is set in the main canon. But I do just think of like fucking Sonic Boom Fire and Ice whenever I come to any of these levels. I mentioned it last time we were here in the Volcano one, it's making me think of it here as well. Fire and Ice on the 3DS, it's not one of the best Sonic games, but it is legitimately worth a go of like playing through it if you're at all interested in 2D Sonic. I wouldn't go into it expecting classic Sonic, because it's not. It's not a classic momentum-based Sonic game. It is very much a like modern-day improvised Sonic gameplay kind of deal. It's basically Shattered Crystal without all the backtracking bollocks. Fuck. Oh, thought I might have... Oh, I've done that twice in this playthrough now. I landed back on the track and then I just drove straight off because I weren't really paying attention. But yeah, like, Sonic Boom Fire and Ice is a massive improvement over Shattered Crystal, and it's well worth playing, I would say. I may end up covering that at some point on the channel. Like, we do actually have a stream archive up on the channel that Tom and I did during the Segathon. So if you just want to watch me fuck around in Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, then that is there in the Segathon playlist. And Vector, I know you're on my team, but when you're pushing me along, I'm not too fond on that. So I'd like to kindly ask you to not do that. My team is a little bit on the diverse side here. Like, you can kind of see Metal Sonic and Zavok working together, given they're both on the evil side of the spectrum. But, like, Vector? Like, are we paying him enough for this? Makes you think, like, the teams are randomly assigned in the GPs. When you're playing in the actual story, it does team you up with your proper team. So, like, if you're Sonic, then you'll get Tails and Knuckles. If you're playing as Amy, for example, you get both Big the Cat and the Chow, because Cream has been killed off for real, I guess. I will say, like, I don't particularly like Oma Chow, but I don't miss Cream either. I never was a fan of Cream. Like, she was very much a nothing character from conception. Like, she's broken as fuck in Advance too, but, you know, in terms of her actual characterization, she brings nothing to the table. Yeah, we've still got a fair lead. Let's go on to the next race. So for this track, I'm now realising that I probably should have chosen an all-around technique character, because there are a few sections here where you can get like some cool little shortcuts by going across the water, which obviously, given I'm playing as a power character, that would slow me down, so I'm gonna stick to the safe route as much as I can. Get back here, Omega. You're annoying me now, buddy. I can't quite place what this music track is. It might be because I got the volume down a little bit, so I'm not murdering my ears while trying to talk, but I think this might be a Sonic Runners remix. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong there, but you know, we had the Seaside Hill remix earlier. We also had the Sonic You Can Do Anything remix. So I think this is a Sonic Runners one. That little left turn there is one of these skips there. Like you can see, you get that high route there, which I think last time I played through this track I was playing as Rouge. So I had the Technique class where I could just skim across there. I'm not going to risk it, given how I'm a slow fucker as it is. Slowing down even more isn't in my interest right now. But yeah, like this choice here of having Seaside Hill, it's going to show up, but the fact that they are doing the format of reusing the track set pieces and, well, not set pieces, but like the track areas, I don't mind having one arbitrary, like obligatory Seaside Hill representation, but when you get several of them, it is a little bit much. And it just kind of makes me really wish whatever it was inhibiting them from having loads of unique tracks wasn't the case. Like either they had more budget to work with, or they had longer time to work with, a longer dev cycle. Because if you had the amount of track variety that All Stars Racing Transformed had in this game, just think of all the cool picks that they could go with that they haven't touched on. Because they're sort of dipping their toes into the more, like, deep cut stuff if you think of having Sand Hill and Sandopolis in general, really. But, you know, I want more! I know I'm probably sounding like a little bit whiny here, but, you know, as someone who's been following this franchise for absolutely years, like, since I was a very small child, I'm just thinking of all the different Sonic areas I would love to have a track where I can race through. I want to race through the Space Colony Arc. I want to race through Crisis City. I'll probably go with some deeper cut ones, like rather than having the Cool Edge Ice area, I would possibly go with like maybe Robotnik Winter. Or even like if you're going through, like say, Ice Cap, because then you could have some like parts of the track based off the Sonic 3 and Knuckles Ice Cap, and then you could have other parts of it based off the Sonic Adventure Ice Cap. Even if you were doing this format where you have multiple representations of each part of the area, like say you would have 3 ice cap tracks, you could possibly have one that's like the inner sections from the 3 and K ice cap, where you know it's got like the deeper blues and you got all the different swing items around that you could adapt as a race course. And then you have one that's the quiet inner section of the Sonic Adventure Ice Cap one. And then to round it off, you would have the third one, that'd be your Be Cool, Be Wild and Groovy section, you know, with all the planes dropping bombs from above. That'd be like a fucking sick, you know, like breakdown of tracks. Maybe if there's a sequel to this game, we might get that. I don't know, like they would probably just stick with the adventure one. But, ladies and gentlemen, join me next time where I'll be going on to the next GP. I'll see you then.